Well, hello there. Welcome to Siomak Official TV. As you can tell by now, this episode will be in English. Since we're talking about an international topic, I figured it might be better if we take it in English. Now, it's fun to talk about music, in particular rap music. That's what I've been doing so far on this channel, but I've mentioned a few times already that besides music, I love to talk about questions regarding society, politics, and what I love dearly is the dialogue, a respectful dialogue between people that have different opinions. That's why I value, freedom of speech, even though it doesn't really look the same here in Sweden, but the concept of freedom of speech. And so today we're talking about a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, I'm going to be very careful, or rather sensitive, talking about this subject. As I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking about three different perspectives when you talk about this region or this conflict. So the first thing is the historical perspective. The second thing is the religious perspective. These two usually go hand in hand. And the third thing is the human perspective. So today, we're not going to talk about the first two, the religious and historical perspective. We're going to talk about the human perspective today. The reason why I don't want to get into these first two is because, there's a few reasons. First of all, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Palestinian, and I feel like for me, just me here by myself, talking about the religious aspect, talking about the Quran, the Torah, the Injil, it doesn't really make sense. Because like I told you, I like dialogue, and that requires more than one person. So what I would love, if we're going to talk about the first two perspectives, is a big room with some chai and coffee prepared, some biscuits perhaps, and 2 or 3 representatives from the Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Christian community, a few historians in the back, and just... Oh, that would be great, just to have that dialogue. It could go crazy in that room, obviously, but in my mind, it's a respectful dialogue. So I'm waiting for that to happen. So that's why I'm not going to get into it today. And, as a Christian myself, I want to hear all the arguments from all sides. And that respectful dialogue is something that I would love to see. It's my prayer, really, to see that, because I don't really see another solution to this. Now, so today we're going to talk about the human perspective, or rather the sociological perspective. And I didn't have much time to prepare, so I'm going to try to just explain what we're going to do here. The first thing, I want to talk about the people that live in this region. I just want to share with you all some statistics, some facts that might help us get a better, or rather wider perspective on this conflict. And then secondly, in the end, I would love to share just a few stories with you all. Some of you know that I lived in the city of Haifa for a few months, and a few months it's quite a long time in that country because it's super small. And so I got to see some amazing people, I got to see some crazy things, I got to see a lot of places. And so what I can speak of is my experience in the region. And that's what I want to focus on today. I also have some gifts to show you that I received from some of these people. So we'll save that towards the end. First, let's look at some statistics that I personally find very interesting. First of all, I want you to take a look at this map. By the way, all the resources will be available in the descriptions below. When I'm using statistics or when I'm speaking out numbers, I always want to make sure that the resources that I've used are available for you guys. But just take a look at this map. Here's a map of Sweden and a map of the region Israel-Palestine. Now, can you understand how small this country is, this region? Sweden is that much bigger in size, and at the same time, the population number isn't that different. Sweden has just over 10 million residents, while in the region of Israel-Palestine, the population is just over 9 million. Let that sink in for a moment. That is a small area for that many people. And it's not only Jews and Muslims who wants to live there. 5% of the population, almost 500,000 people, are non-Jewish or Arab Muslims. There's a lot of Christians that wants to live there. There's a lot of volunteers that wants to live there. And this country is packed with people. And just like I mentioned earlier, like the sociological perspective of this, it makes sense somehow that there is a conflict there. It makes sense that it is hard to live there because there's not much space. And also remember, like, you can't just build cities anywhere in this region, like Middle East. Like, you have to think about where you want to, the infrastructure. You need water, you need supplies. I mean, many parts of this region is like desert or just rocks. So obviously there's not that much space for people to choose. And then when you step into each other's land, just like in the biblical days, obviously there's going to be some fighting. So I think that's very important to just have in the back of your mind just how small the country is. The region is small. It is a lot of people there. And we'll get into the people later, just when I share some of the stories. Another thing we need to keep in mind here is that the numbers are growing. If you look back through the years, the numbers have grown greatly when it comes to just the residents in this area. I think two main reasons for that is, well, first of all, the region is not just a country, right? For Muslims, for Jews, and perhaps for some Christians, this land is holy. The city of Jerusalem is holy. For Muslims, it is a holy place, just like Mecca is a holy place. And for Jews and Christians, it's a holy place. And that's why many people want to live there, want to work there, want to just live their lives there, because they are attracted to the fact that it's a holy place. The second thing is that the people who live there, specifically in the religious areas, are very good at having babies. Now, I'm not joking around with this. Like, I was down there and I saw a lot of Jewish neighborhoods and Palestinian neighborhoods, and these guys are crazy. I mean, we're talking like 8 to 9 children per family, like I said, in the religious areas. This is obviously something that can be traced back to religion, how God wants us to grow and multiply. But it's also a strategical move, if you think about it. The more kids each family has, the bigger the people gets. And if your people are bigger, it makes them stronger. It makes the defense stronger. And so I personally think that is a very interesting aspect, just the strategical thing of having a big family and just making sure that the population goes higher than the enemy, if you can call it that. So I'm going to keep this short, but as you can tell, without talking about the religious and the historical perspectives, already by just looking at the people, the size of the region, and the large numbers of people living there, without the religious perspective and the historical perspective, we can already tell that, well, it makes sense that there is a conflict there. It makes sense that some people are angry, that some people are tired, that people are oppressed. It's quite obvious just by looking at these statistics. And that's why I fear for the future, because like I said earlier, the numbers just keep growing. And it's not like the land is gonna grow bigger. So that is a very interesting thing, an important thing to keep in mind. It's easy for us here in Sweden, this large country, to talk about them in a bad way. Like, why are they fighting? Why can't they just get along? But I mean, looking at these things, I hope that we can just think a little bit with a wider perspective. So one more thing before storytelling. I'm gonna try really hard to talk about this sensitive topic in an unbiased way. So, if I may, I would like to address some of my fellow Christians. If there's one thing I've noticed throughout the many years that I've been studying, that I've been online, seeing what people write, how people talk, if there's one thing I've noticed, specifically among some Christian groups, is a very hateful rhetoric towards Palestinians. So Christians, they believe the Torah, they have the Injil, and they somehow feel like they have a very important place in that discussion. And, theologically speaking, yes, you could be right. But when it comes to just the land and the issue there, the Christians don't really have much to do with it. They don't have much saying because it's a Jewish state right now. Israel is a Jewish state. That's what happened. And the Palestinian territories are there. So the conflict is among these two people groups. And when I hear some of these Christian leaders speak in a hateful way, it saddens me, really. It makes me very sad. You can love Israel, you can love the Jewish people, but if you don't love the Palestinians, then you're not actually a Christian. Oh, that's pretty controversial. However, I think I'm right. Why? Well, first of all, the Apostle Paul said that we should be kind towards people. We should be joyful. Our Lord Jesus Christ said that we should love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. So if you feel that the Palestinians are persecuting your Israel friends, you should pray for them. You should pray God's blessing over them, just as you pray God's blessing over the Jewish people. I guess my point is, even if you support Israel forever, you will never be a biblical Christian unless you get rid of that hate and bitterness in your heart. Please think about that before your next communion. And to all my Palestinian friends, I basically say the same thing, really. You believe in Isa as your prophet, and his teachings are solid. And he says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So I'm basically saying the same things, because I have friends that are Jewish, I have friends that are Palestinian, I have friends that are a bit crazy on each side, and I'm saying this to all of you. We need to love our enemies. This conflict is so old, it's so complex, it's so... I don't even know how to explain it. And the solution might be there in the future. I don't know. I hope so. But for now, we should try to love each other. When I was down there, with all the things that I saw, sometimes I just couldn't help but falling down on my knees with tears, just begging God, heal this land, fix this land, this endless war. God, intervene. At the same time, to be honest, I'm not sure if we're going to see that solving anytime soon. And therefore, I beg you all, my Jewish friends, my Palestinian friends, I beg you all to keep in mind that we're one people. As humans, we're one race, and all we have is each other. So I want to take the time now to just share some stories from my time down in this region. And the stories I want to share, it's 4 different stories that covers, the people that live down there, and I really want to share it with you all because it's just my experience. And so the first one I'm going to share is when I was in Haifa. Early on, I felt like I needed a place to chill, Now, me personally, if I want to chill, I'm gonna try to find myself a Palestinian area where there's a shisha place, because that's how I relax. So I went to this place, this restaurant, a cafe rather, where they served shisha and they served biscuits and coffee. And I went there a few times in the beginning, and I got to know the owner of the place. And he was a Muslim, identified as Palestinian, and he lived in Haifa. And we got to talking, and we had some really good conversations. And I remember one time he wasn't there, and I was just sitting there chilling. There was a football game on the screen, and I was just minding my own business. I was by myself, so I wasn't really expecting people to just talk to me. But one day there was these few guys sitting close to me, and they were obviously having a lot of fun. And I was just minding my own business, and eventually they were like, "Tal, come here." And so I went there, and they started to ask me where I was from. And when I tried to explain that, they were just confused. They thought I was a spy or something, because it just doesn't make sense, for them, that a half Iranian, half Swedish guy just shows up in their favorite shisha club, bar, whatever. So I got to know these three guys, man. They were a few years younger than me, and they were great guys. All Palestinians, all Muslims, and they were just so heartwarming. It was just great to spend time with them. They were like, "What are you doing there? Come sit with us. Let's watch the game. Which is your favorite team?" It was just a lot of fun, and I got to hang with them on the weekend. We drove around Haifa in their car, and one of the guys was actually a producer, producing hip-hop beats, and I thought that was great because I'm a rapper, and then we started to share contact, and I just had some great time with them. Now, before I left this region after 3 months, I really wanted to just spend some time with the owner of the place, because we really had a great connection. And this is what I love about these people, man. They're just so generous and kind-hearted people. So before I left, like I came there, I was chilling for a few hours, and I was like, "So, my friend, this is the last time I'll see you probably." That wasn't the case, because I went back a few years later. But and then he was like, okay, Daniel, before you leave, please come. And he took me to the back of the area there behind the kitchen, and he had like probably 100 or maybe even more shishas just lined up, beautiful, different colors, and he was like, "Daniel, you are my friend. Pick one for you to bring home to Sweden." And I was super excited. I was like, "Yeah, really? Can I pick anyone?" And let me introduce you guys to one of my great friends here. This is Fatima. She has been with me since I left that region, and she reminds me of my friend. I won't say his name, but she reminds me of my friend in Haifa, because he was very generous to give me this thing, and I take good care of her. Another story. So many of you might not know, but the Jewish people, obviously there's been, if you look at the historical thing, you have people, Jews, all over the world today. So very early during my time there, I realized that, hey, I've met Chinese Jews and Russian Jews and Arabic Jews, and I was a bit confused, to be honest. And so where I lived, there was a lot of Russian Jews, for example. So they spoke Hebrew and they spoke Russian, and they had their Russian communities, for example, And then one day, a friend of mine who lives there, he brought me to another city, and he was a bit like, I'm gonna take you on a road trip, and I was super excited. And he took me to this city, and he told me on the way that, "So Daniel, in this city, there is a lot of Persian Jews." And I was like, "Wait, what? Like Iranians, Persians?" It's like, yeah, there's plenty of them here. And he told me, just walk into any leather shop, which is pretty funny, or like carpets or shoes or purses, bags. It's like anything that involves leather. Just walk into that store and say something in Farsi. And I thought, all right, this will be fun. Because remember, we're on Israel territory right now. So I walk in there and I'm like, Salam! I start speaking Persian and they freaked out. They freaked out because they're not used to speaking Persian there. They speak Hebrew. And I got to know a lot of Persian Jews. And that was amazing. And I started to look into some statistics and I realized, oh, there's still Jews living in Iran and there's a lot of Jews living here in Israel. And that was mind-blowing to me. And I was speaking to some of the elderly people there, and it was very interesting to hear their perspective. They were like, well, so we do miss Iran, like, so, because the elder people, they came from that place. Their children, they were telling me, like, so our children, they don't speak Farsi, like, they forget it. Pretty much like when people like my father, they come here, and then some families, they let go of the mother tongue, and he was telling me exactly the same thing. Like, so, some of us older, we miss Iran and we speak Farsi, but our kids are basically, some of them are good at it and some are not. And there was this one Persian lady, old lady, that was sewing or whatever, like handmade kippas, the Jewish hat. And I got this from her. And I think, for me, these things that I have, they're for me, it's memories. I think it's important that when we meet people, regardless of their political opinion or point of view, try to see the human, the person that you're talking to. And this old lady, this was her way of making a living, I suppose, and I really appreciate this. Another story, coming in towards Jerusalem and getting to know some of the Orthodox Jews, and I got to spend a Friday evening, Shabbat Shalom, with a Jewish family, a Jewish Orthodox, I have to say, family. And that was a mind-blowing experience, because I've heard about, how they do things when it comes to the Sabbath, but I've never experienced it. And that was a very interesting experience. So basically, they cooked all the food before Shabbat starts, so that when it's Shabbat, they don't have to touch anything, because they're not allowed to touch anything. The Sabbath, it's supposed to be a resting day, so you shouldn't work, and that involves, cooking and in this sense, this was an Orthodox family. They were maybe taking it a bit too far. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I know all about the Sabbath, and I think it's a great thing, even though there's no law anymore. But these guys were hardcore, because one thing happened that really embarrassed me. I went into the bathroom after we shared amazing food and all that, and we were singing some hymns, some psalms in Hebrew. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. The bathroom light was lit. So I don't know why, maybe it's just a habit, but after I was done, when I was going out of the bathroom, I turned the light off. And the mother of the family saw me in the hallway, and she got pretty upset with me. I mean, like, she got mad because now they can't turn the light on again. I don't know. Like, it was just, so it was an experience to just, and this is all about being aware of both cultural things, but religious things. Obviously, I think we always learn, like now, if I go back, that's something I keep in mind, because I want to be respectful when I meet other people, when I meet other families. So that was a quite interesting experience. All right, so we've talked about the interactions I had with some Muslims, Palestinians, Persian Jews, and also the Orthodox family. I want to share one last story, and the reason why I can share this story is because it's already online, it's already public. This is a story about a Christian family that live in Israel, and they were being persecuted by some of the Orthodox Jewish people in the community. So I visited them, and they were sharing this story face to face with me, and it was mind-blowing to hear. They showed pictures, etc. Let me just share quickly. Basically, some of the Orthodox Jews in the neighborhood felt like they needed to remove this family from the community because they didn't leave. They didn't want to leave. And one guy, an Orthodox Jew, he planted a bomb inside of a fruit basket. It was a Jewish holiday when you bring these kind of baskets to other families as a gift. Now this guy planted a bomb inside all of these goodies, and he left it outside of their door. The bomb exploded, and the only person that was in the house was this family's son. And he got severely damaged. You can read about this, like I said. He got really, really damaged, burn damages, and this guy apparently was a basketball pro in the States, and he played a lot of basketball. Now, he survived the attack, but while he was in surgery and all that, they were telling the family, and they shared this with me, like, this guy is not gonna play basketball again. He might not even walk again. He might have trouble walking. Like, those dreams are probably over. And so there's two things I just want to mention about this, really, because it's a fascinating story. First thing is that, I believe in God. I believe that healing can take place because I believe God is sovereign, and therefore he can do anything. Even if science says no, I believe God can say yes. And the doctors that were looking after him, they obviously, they should have believed the same thing, because they had no idea how that guy could, his healing process, just the way his body, everything worked out fine. And he did. He restored completely, even though the doctor said that is impossible. And as far as I know it, he still plays basketball today. I know that they told me that he was able to play again, because when they shared this with me a few years after it had happened. So they were like, yeah, he plays again, and he's full functioning. So that's one great thing. The second thing is, so what happened to this terrorist, this Jewish man who did this horrible act? Well, he went to prison. And the final thing I want to say, and just to round off this whole discussion, is that after a while, this family was being interviewed by the local media about the incident. So I don't know, maybe it had been a few months, but they said on national TV that they forgive the man for what he did. And I've seen quite a lot of these videos nowadays viral, when in a courtroom, when a mother walks up and hugs the guy that killed her son. And I get goosebumps every time I see something like that. Forgiveness is one of the biggest things that we have in this world. Forgiveness is a key to restoring relationships between people, between countries. This family forgave this terrorist for almost killing their son. I think this is one more thing that we can learn from Jesus, Isa, his teachings. According to him, forgiveness is vital. That's why I was saying earlier that, if you have that hateful rhetoric towards either one of the two people, then you should think about it before you take communion. Because if you know your Bible, you know that you shouldn't even take communion if you carry that hate in your heart. And therefore, forgiveness is vital. Jesus' teachings is that you need to forgive other people. It is a demand. So forgiveness is the beginning of restoration and healing, I believe. I know that Israel has done some terrible things towards the Palestinians, and I know that Palestinians have done some terrible things towards Israel. However, none of that will be fixed, I believe, unless forgiveness can take place. I think that sums up what I wanted to share with you all today, and I hope you found this video interesting. There is a chance that we might do this again sometime and talk about the religious and historical perspectives. Like I said earlier, I would like some more people involved in that. Maybe it could be more of a debate or discussion, because I do believe it's important to talk about everything. And but for now, this is it. And I just want to wish you all a great week, and we'll see each other next time. Peace out.